Okay, can you hear me? Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can someone give me an answer? Okay, so this question now. We were here. We wanted to know the genotype of the children when the parents are both red and white. So we were doing a Punnett square actually, where we had two parents, both of them are co-dominant, red and white and red and white. We were here. This child will also be heterozygous and this child will be homozygous dominant, will be white. So I have a red child and two co-dominant children and another white child. So what will I write here in this answer? I'm going to write RR, comma, WW, comma, R capital, W capital. I can write it this way or with the gene, with the P, whatever. But this will be the answer. I hope you all understand how we got it. Most of you got this answer correct. You are all solving inheritance actually well. Now, the type of inheritance that is shown by the petal, this inheritance, we said that this is co-dominance. I hope you all understand that this is all co-dominance, not incomplete dominance. I want you to forget incomplete dominance because honestly, I've never seen a question that asks about incomplete dominance, even though it is in your syllabus. It's always asking about co-dominance. It's always giving you this example or the blood group example. So it's always co-dominance. Always choose co-dominance. Now, this graph, there is always a graph in every exam, paper 4 and 6. So graphs are very important. Figure 3.1 shows the changes in the concentration of the follicle stimulating and the luteinizing hormone during a menstrual cycle. You have the days or the time in the menstrual cycle on the x-axis and the concentration of the hormone in arbitrary units on the y-axis. And then you have the graph. You have two graphs and you have a key. You have the solid line for the luteinizing hormone and the dashed line for the follicle stimulating hormone. Okay? Now you can see the graph. Of course, they will ask you the first question, suggest a target organ for the follicle stimulation hormone. Tell me, the follicle stimulation hormone, it is released from the brain and it goes where? What is the target organ? Organ. I'm waiting for an answer. The follicle stimulating hormone, where does it go?
Ovary.
Yes, the ovary, not the uterus, the ovary. And who will carry this follicle stimulating hormone? State how the follicle stimulating hormone reaches its target organ. Any hormone in the body, it is carried
Blood.
by the, of course, it is carried by the blood. Describe the relationship shown by the two hormones in figure 3.1, and you have 2 marks. So you will go to the graph and you will discuss the relationship shown. So you will have to give numbers from the graph and describe. What do you see on the graph? What do you say? Quickly, quickly, because Zoom only gives me 40 minutes. What is the relationship you see on the graph between the two hormones, the luteinizing and the follicle? What did you write? Mustafa. Someone give me an
Yes.
answer. Yes, tell me, what did you write on the exam in this question? What's the relationship
As
between both?
both increase in the ovulation.
Both increase, yes. They both increase in general together. If you notice, at the beginning, both of them were constant. But the follicle stimulating hormone had a higher concentration than the luteinizing hormone, but they were both increasing slowly. And then they increased suddenly, both of them peaked at ovulation. And always the luteinizing hormone is more than the follicle hormone. And then they both what? Decrease. Okay? Again, you are not all very good at describing graphs. When you have a graph, please break it down into several parts. Like this graph, you have an increasing part. So this is part A. You always have a peak, okay, or the maximum, and you have a third part, which is decreasing. So both hormones, they increase and they decrease together. But the luteinizing hormone is always in a higher concentration than the follicle stimulating hormone. And this is all clear from the graph. And there is always a peak in the graph. So in any graph, if there's a top or a maximum limit, always indicate that and give a number. So you will say that they both initially they increase slowly and then they increase too much. They reach a peak at day 14 and they both decrease together. And always the luteinizing hormone had a higher peak or a higher peak than the follicle stimulating hormone in the ovulation. At the beginning, it was the follicle stimulating hormone that was of higher concentration than the luteinizing hormone. So you will break down the graph. Most of you did this correctly, but did not mention the peak or the maximum limit of both hormones. Now describe the role of the follicle stimulating and the luteinizing hormone in the menstrual cycle. And 4 marks. When you have 4 marks, this means how many functions will you mention for every hormone? 1 or 2? Give me an answer. Don't stay silent. Omar. Layla. What 2 functions do you know for the follicle stimulating hormone?
It stimulates the release of the egg from the follicle.
No. I'm not talking about the
Sorry,
luteinizing. I'm talking about the
أيوة
follicles.
أيوة أيوة. It helps. It helps with the growth of the follicle والegg.
Very good. This is one function. It helps in the growth of the follicle. All of you wrote this. Now give me one function for the growth or for the luteinizing hormone.
It stimulates the release of the egg from the follicle.
Correct. Okay. All of you wrote these 2 functions only. How many marks is this question? 4 marks. So you need to think of another function for the follicle stimulating hormone and another function for the luteinizing hormone. And don't tell yourself that I don't know. You already know one piece of information about the growth of the follicle. As the follicle is growing, Layla, what other hormone does it produce?
Estrogen or progesterone?
Exactly. Estrogen, not progesterone. Estrogen. Progesterone is
Okay.
produced after ovulation. So this is the second point that you needed to mention here. So the follicle stimulating hormone, I want to write 2 points, 2 functions. If you say that it is produced from the brain, this is not a function. So this is not going to be counted. All of you said that the follicle stimulating hormone helps in the growth of the follicle and not the egg, the follicle. They wanted the word follicle. All of you wrote that, but you wanted to give another function. Think about it. As the follicle is growing, it will produce estrogen. So the follicle stimulating hormone, therefore, indirectly helps in the secretion of the estrogen. You will take the 2 marks here. Luteinizing hormone, it helps in ovulation, correct. After ovulation, Layla, what happens to the yellow body? What does it produce?
It produces the progesterone, I think.
Exactly. So this was the second piece of information that you needed to write about the luteinizing hormone, that it produces or it results in ovulation. Okay, I want another sentence to write because I want 2 points for each. The question is out of 4 marks. So after ovulation, think about it. The yellow body will be formed and the yellow body will produce progesterone. So indirectly, the luteinizing hormone is also responsible for the production of progesterone hormone because if ovulation did not happen, the yellow body will not be formed and the progesterone will not be produced. So again, 95% of you took a 2 out of 4 in this question because you gave me only one function for the follicle stimulating hormone. You said it helps in the growth of the follicle, which is correct. And you gave me one function for the luteinizing hormone, which is ovulation, which is correct. I did not say it's wrong. But if this question was out of 2 marks, you will take 2 out of 2. This question is out of 4 marks. So you had to think of another piece of information concerning this and that hormone. Do you all know where do you lose the marks? That's why I tell you to be on the safe side. Write everything you know about what they are asking you about. Now, C, describe the changes that occur in the lining of the uterus during one menstrual cycle, and this is 3 marks. And most of you got this one correctly. This is actually core. What did you write? Let me choose someone because you prefer to stay silent. I don't know why. Abdul Rahman, what did you write about the lining of the uterus during the menstrual cycle?
In the flow phase, it's
Very good.
the breaking down of the endometrium.
Yes, it will break down. And then what else?
It will
It-
rebuild up in the follicular phase.
Correct. It will build up again. And then you have two other phases, ovulation and the luteal phase. What happens here?
And ovulation, it will progesterone hormone will be secreted to maintain the thickness.
Yes, very good. In both cases, you will maintain the thickness and it will actually be thickest at the end of the,
Ovulation or the menstrual cycle.
yes, at the end of the luteal, just before the flow phase. So this will give you a 3 out of 3 if you mention the phases or you mention the days. This or that, the flow phase from day 1 to day 4, follicular phase from day 4 to day 13, ovulation is mid-cycle day 14, and the luteal phase day 15 to day 28. So you mention the name of the phases and the days and the thickness of the uterus, you get the 3 out of the 3 marks. This was an easy question. Now, oral contraceptives are a method of birth control. Outline how the hormones in contraceptives act as a method of birth control. Yes, we know that birth control is canceled, but not hormones. Hormones are specifically in your syllabus. So which set of hormones will help in contraception?
Progesterone and estrogen.
Very good. So you need to mention that the estrogen and the progesterone, these two hormones, will be found in the contraceptive pills. Okay, give me more. It's out of 3 marks. What do they do?
If they are high or at high levels, they stop the secretion of FSH.
Very good. They stop the production of the FSH and luteinizing hormone. Okay, I want another sentence. When I have a set of hormones that controls the production of another set of hormones, this is an example of what?
Homeostasis by negative feedback.
Excellent. Homeostasis by negative feedback. If you did not say this last sentence, you still take a 3 out of a 3. Okay? But because you mentioned all the hormones. But the model answer is that these contraceptive pills will contain estrogen and progesterone. When those two are at high levels, the brain will not produce the follicle stimulating hormone and the luteinizing hormone. So no growth of follicle, no ovulation, no pregnancy. And this can be an example of homeostasis by negative feedback. Okay, good. Now, question 4, most of you also did this question correctly. Help me label because they ask you to label. What is W? What is this space between two nerve cells? Quickly.
Synapse.
Yes, W is the synapse, and they will ask you to discuss exactly what is happening at the synapse. All the supplements, they asked you about the supplements. What is U? Remember the SR, 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 me, remember? S is the stimulus, the hot object, and then R is the what?
Receptor.
Receptor. And then the first S,
Sensory.
sensory, V is the sensory. And what is the R? This R, the X,
The relay.
the relay, very good. And then the M,
The motor.
the motor. Okay, very good. The Y is the motor, and Z is the muscle, is the effector that will produce a response. And they actually ask you in the table. We already mentioned all that. Okay, the letter on figure, what is the letter of the structure that will conduct impulses to the central nervous system? What is the nerve cell? Which one? The V or the W or the X? Quickly. We already said it. That will take
The
the
V.
message to, yes, the V. Okay, good. So this will be the V. You will write V here, letter, and the name, this will be the sensory. Okay, that conducts the impulse to an effector. So here they're talking about the relay. We said the relay will be the X. I just don't want to waste time. We already said it. So X will be the relay. We write relay here. And what will conduct impulses only within the central nervous system? No, this is wrong. I did a mistake. What's my mistake? What will conduct an impulse to the effector?
الموتور.
Yes, correct. The motor, you have to always never be in a hurry. And the motor is we said the Y. Now, what will conduct impulses only within the central nervous system? Quickly, please, quickly. Within, inside, between the sensory and the motor.
Relay.
Relay, yes, which is X. So I'll write it here. Now the receptor was what? Which letter? We just said it.
U.
U. And what's the function of the receptor?
Detect stimuli.
Very good. Detect stimuli. And Z was what? Z was the
Effector.
effector or the muscle. And what is the function of the effector?
Respond to the stimuli.
Very good. It will respond or it will produce an action. Excellent. Most of you did this properly. Now here, figure 4.2 shows the structure of the synapse at W. Describe how an impulse travels across the synapse shown in figure 4.2. And this is 4 marks. So you have lots of keywords here. Can someone tell me what did you write? I want all the 4 marks. And they even nicely gave you a diagram. So what do you start with?
An impulse arrives at the presynaptic neuron.
Of course, you always have to start by the impulse arriving because nothing will be activated if there is no impulse. So you have to start by the arrival of an impulse. This impulse will arrive at the presynaptic nerve cell. There are a lot of keywords here. The presynaptic nerve cell. And then this is going to cause what? What will this do to the vesicles?
It will cause them to fuse with the membrane, releasing neurotransmitters into the synaptic cleft.
Perfect. These vesicles will become activated. They will move with the cell, fuse with the cell membrane and release the neurotransmitters. Of course, fusion of the cell membrane is important. Releasing of neurotransmitters, this is important. And these neurotransmitters will move across the synaptic cleft by
Diffusion.
diffusion. And then what are the last 2 sentences?
They will fuse with the complementary receptors في postsynaptic neuron.
Very good. And then this will generate an impulse in the postsynaptic neuron. Very easy. And this part is supplement. And they always ask about it, by the way. It's a common question. Most of you did it properly. Those that did not study and forgot keywords, this is your problem. But this is the very direct question. State one example of a reflex action that occurs in the eye. Also, most of you got this one correct. Give me 2.
Accommodation.
Accommodation, the thickness of the lens, or blinking. This was considered correct, or pupil reflex, which is the diameter of the pupil. Okay, any one of those was correct. And then state 2 factors that affect the volume of the urine produced in the human body. This was an easy one.
The water intake.
Of course, how much water you drink. What else?
Well, temperature.
Yes, how much you sweat or exercise or the surrounding temperature. This is also going to affect the urine. What other things could affect the urine? In case they want more than 2 factors. Protein intake, glucose intake, if you're diabetic, salt intake, all these are factors that will affect the urine. Now, this question, those that studied ecology answered this question because this question is a direct question. And the other question is also ecology. And always in ecology is long. But if you notice, you have 2 questions on this exam, 1 out of 5 marks and 1 out of 6 marks. So 11 marks alone over ecology. I want you to understand how serious ecology is. Ecology comes in every single exam, every single paper 4 exam. A lot of the lessons, they don't show up. Like there was not a single question on respiration, not a single question on transport in mammals, not a single question, but 2 questions on ecology. So ecology is essential. And ecology, you can study it from year 10 notes only. It is enough. And the main questions, they ask about the main topics: eutrophication, deforestation, global warming, nitrogen cycle. So the basic topics, and they're very direct. So this question is very direct. Nitrogen is an important element for organisms. In a livestock farm, waste from animals contain protein. This waste is spread on farmland as a fertilizer. Describe how nitrogen in protein is recycled in the soil into a form that plants can absorb and use. So here, the nitrogen cycle, 5 marks. Who remembers the nitrogen cycle? How does the nitrogen from the waste reaches plants?
First, decomposition.
Perfect. So you have waste products. These waste products will be decomposed. Excellent. And then when they are decomposed, what will be released?
Amino acids.
You are correct. Very good. Waste products contain protein. Proteins will be decomposed. Decomposed means they will be digested. And any protein will be digested into amino acid. Very good. What do amino acids contain? Amino acids, what do they release? More decomposition.
Then deaminations happens, removing the nitrogen containing part.
Perfect. Excellent. The amino acids, they will undergo deamination. This is lovely. Deamination means I will remove the nitrogen from the amino acids. The nitrogen will be released. This nitrogen will go through 2 steps only. Step number 1, the nitrogen that is released from the waste products will be converted into
Ammonia and ammonium.
Excellent. Ammonium or ammonia will be converted into ammonium compounds. Okay, and this is ammonification. Ammonification is the making of ammonia from nitrogen. The name is very clear. Now the plants cannot absorb ammonia. So the last step, then these ammonia or ammonium compounds will be converted into
Nitrate ions.
very good nitrate ions in a process called
Nitrification.
excellent nitrification or nitrifying bacteria. These nitrogen ions or nitrate ions will be absorbed by the
roots by active transport.
Perfect. Will be absorbed by the roots in the process of active transport, and this is called assimilation. And the plants will use these nitrates to make what? To make proteins for growth. So it's actually a short answer, but it's out of 5 marks because we have lots of keywords. Let's write it again because a lot of you ignored ecology, even though I told you and I warned you that only 1 question will be bonus and the other question will not be bonus. So if you did not study ecology, you lost at least 5 marks. That's why the grades were not good. So in the nitrogen cycle, it's very easy. We said the nitrogen cycle is several parts. We studied it in a particular way to make it nice and easy for us to study. We said net. N was for nitrogen fixation, but we don't need nitrogen fixation because they're not asking about nitrogen fixation, which is nitrogen in the air being converted into nitrates. They are asking about the waste products. So specifically, we will go to the waste products or excretion and decomposition. Okay, so we have waste products. Excretion and decomposition are the same thing. Any waste products or any organism that will die will be decomposed by bacteria and fungi. When they are decomposed, these waste products will release proteins or slash amino acids. Our body contains proteins and amino acids. These amino acids will release nitrogen into the soil by the removal of the nitrogen containing part, which is deamination. So now I already mentioned 2 keywords, decomposition and deamination. Deamination is the removal of the nitrogen containing part. The nitrogen that will be released will be first converted into ammonia or ammonium compounds in ammonification. The name is very clear. Ammonification is the making of ammonia. And then ammonia is not the final step. The final step is the conversion of the ammonia into nitrates, just like your friend said. In nitrification, So I'll write here nitrification. And nitrates will be taken up by the plants by active transport and assimilation to be converted back to proteins. So it was proteins, we broke it down, we absorbed it again, and we will convert it to different proteins. Okay? So it's very, very easy. I'm going to write it down again for the third time because this is revision also. In diagram form. Maybe I'll make it easier. You have waste products or dead bodies. These waste products will, number one, be decomposed, releasing amino acids. And then these amino acids will undergo deamination. Deamination means nitrogen will be released. And then this nitrogen will be converted into ammonia or ammonium compounds in ammonification. Ammonia will be converted into nitrates by nitrifying bacteria. And this is the final step. We finished. These nitrates will be absorbed by the plants and the plants will use it for growth. This is all what you needed to write. It was a short answer, but it is filled with keywords. Okay. Now the last question, also very easy question. Waste from livestock farms often pollute water courses such as streams and rivers, leading to a reduction in biodiversity. Explain how the pollution of water courses by animal waste leads to a reduction in biodiversity. So here you will talk, this is 6 marks. The pollution of water here, what do you talk about? What's the objective here that you will talk about? Most of you actually gave me the answer to this question. When I throw waste products into the water and fertilizers, this will give me what or cause what? I will not answer.
Eutrophication.
Yes. So you will talk about eutrophication in detail with all the steps. And the last sentence, you will say that because eutrophication happens and we have death of fish and death of plants, this will cause a reduction in biodiversity and extinction. And you will take the 6 marks. That's it. Ecology questions are a lot of marks, but they're very easy. You just need to memorize the steps. Who will remind me what happens in eutrophication? I'm waiting. What happens in eutrophication? Hello? Who will tell me what are the steps in eutrophication? Wake up with me. Where did you go? Let me choose someone then. Jana, can you remind me what happens in eutrophication? Or Muhammad Tariq?
It leads to biomagnification, and also it leads to pollution and soil erosion and famine to the process of monoculture.
Okay, you
It
can stay
also can
silent.
lead to the death of animals.
Every single word you said is incorrect. You're just giving me any answer. What is the relationship between eutrophication and monoculture? Nothing. You just want to tell me you don't know, tell me you don't know. Now, eutrophication, obviously, you did not study ecology or you don't remember it. Eutrophication, what is it? Number one, you will throw waste products or you will throw fertilizers into the rivers. These waste products and fertilizers, they contain lots of nitrates. Zoom is going to cut off again. I have to finish the question. Nitrates are going to lead to the overgrowth of aquatic plants known as what? Who will remind me? This green small aquatic plant, what is it called?
Algae.
Give me an answer.
Algae.
Yes, you already know it, algae. Okay, so the nitrates will result in algae boom or overgrowth of algae. You have a river and you have an overgrowth of algae, and this is going to block what?
It's going to block the sunlight.
Very good.
reaching
Thank you. Give
plants.
me an answer. Excellent. So the sunlight will be blocked. What will this do to the plants in the river?
They're going to die if I cause oxygen depletion.
Excellent. The plants will die. And then after anything dies, they will be what first?
Decomposed.
Excellent. When they are decomposed, like you said, the oxygen levels will decrease, oxygen depletion. When there is oxygen depletion, what will this happen? What will this do to the fish?
They'll cause them to die.
Very
ممكن
good.
يحصل extinction.
That's it. Finished. Can you see how simple it is? Fish will die because there will be no oxygen. So plants will die, fish will die. I have an overgrowth of algae. And when the plants die and the fish will die, this is going to decrease biodiversity and disrupt food chains. And it's going to cause extinction to some plants and animals. That's it. You'll take the 6 out of the 6. Only if you know what eutrophication is. It's not monoculture. It's got nothing to do with that. Okay? So you studied, you will do well. You did not study, I don't know what will happen. Okay? So this is the last question that was out of 6 marks. Oh, that's not the last question. Okay, this one, enzymes. What is catalyst? Most of you gave me this one correctly.
A biological substance that speeds up the rate of reaction
Without
by
being
lowering
used.
the activation energy without being used up.
Very good. Enzymes are made up of
Proteins.
proteins. Very good. So most of you gave me the definition. This was one question for the core only. We'll go back and look at the core questions. Now, figure 6.1 shows diagrams of 3 enzymes and 8 different substrates. State the letter of the substrate that will be broken down by the enzyme. Enzyme 1 can join to which substrate? V or
T.
W or T? T. That was the only one that can join with the enzyme. Explain in terms of enzyme structure the reason for your choice and 2 marks. Why did you choose T?
Complementary active site.
Very good. Excellent. Because T has a shape that is complementary to the active site. Finished. Okay, now this is the last question. The enzyme maltase, it breaks down maltose to
Glucose.
glucose. Correct. You all did this properly. Now, what will break down proteins into amino acids?
Protease.
Protease. That was also too easy. This was core. Lipase will break down fats into
Glycerol and fatty acids.
excellent fatty acid and glycerol. Now, what will break down lactose to simple sugars?
Lactase.
Lactase. That was the supplement question. We took the lactase in U10. What will insert a short length of DNA into a plasmid?
Ligase.
Correct. And what will the restriction enzyme do?
It will cut sticky, complementary sticky ends.
It will cut DNA or plasmid with sticky ends. Excellent. Okay, so we're done with this exam. This exam is a typical paper 4 exam. It shows how it's directly related to how well you study. I will tell you where did you most lose marks. The first question was easy. Now this question, active transport and diffusion, you all did it correctly. This was core. Let's see the percentage of the core out of the supplement. Importance of microvilli, this is supplement, that was easy. Goblet cells and mucus, you all did it. The suggest question, it is a critical thinking question, but you all got it. You all understood that the mucus provides protection. But a lot of you told me that it will trap the dust and it will protect the lungs. This shows one thing, that you're not reading the question. They are asking about the intestines and not the lungs. So you lose a mark. So if you mention the lungs here, that it will trap dust and it will protect the lungs, you lose a mark because it will give you protection, yes, but in the intestines, not the lungs. So read the question. The role of the lacteal, that was easy. A lot of you got a mistake here in this question. The intestinal epithelium. You did not study the first few lessons and you did not remember that the epithelium is a tissue, not an organ. Now, most of the grades were lost in 2 questions only in this exam. In this question, the Petri dish, and those that did not study inheritance did not get the question, and the question here, and the ecology. These 2 questions, if you did not solve them, you lose 10 marks altogether. So the Petri dish question, you always, or most of you got half the grade, 2 out of 5 or 3 out of 5, because you only mentioned A and D and B in the other Petri dish, and you ignore the rest of the discs. And you have to mention everything. It's out of 5 marks, and they wanted information from the figure. So I think I made it clear what you will do. If you have any investigation, please be patient and break it down bit by bit. So the best way or the model answer for this question, only 1 or 2 did it. They talked about the first Petri dish that contained the starch, and then they talked about the second Petri dish that contained the pectin, and they talked about every single disc separately. They talked about A, about B, about D, and about C. Exactly what they saw. A, there was some digestion because it contained amylase. B, there is no digestion because B does not contain amylase. B contains pectinase. D, there was the most digestion and the biggest clear zone because D contains lots of amylase. Very logic. C, no digestion because C is control. Finished. I finished the first Petri dish. The second Petri dish, I will discuss it separately, and every disc again on its own. A, no amylase, no pectinase, so A did not give me a clear zone. B, some pectinase, so there was some clear zone. D, some pectinase, but less than B, so there was a smaller clear zone. C, control, no digestion at all. It's just water to compare. That's it. Things are simple, but you like to complicate them for yourselves. So this question, a lot of you did not answer it correctly. This question, a lot of you talked about mitosis. I don't know why, when this is talking clearly about meiosis. And a lot of you also did not get this question correctly, the variation in sexual reproduction. And we took it clearly. There are 4 reasons of variation in sexual reproduction. MMRR, meiosis, mutation, random fertilization, random mating. Okay? This question, we took it 100 times. Why is the chromosome number maintained? Because the gametes are haploid. When they fuse together, they become or they restore the diploid number. Inheritance, most of you got it. This graph, most of you got it, but most of you did not mention the peak. And they always, in any graph that has a maximum limit, always mention this maximum limit or peak. Okay? This question, a lot of you got half the grade, 2 out of 4, because you did not notice that the question is out of 4 marks and they wanted 2 points on the follicle stimulating and 2 points on the luteinizing. 95% of the students gave me 1 function for this and 1 function for that. And you did not mention the second function. This is another core question, the uterus. And the ecology questions are straightforward. Those who studied it, good for you. Those that did not study it, they lost at least 5 marks. Nitrogen cycle is a clear question, and eutrophication is a clear question. Enzymes, you all got the enzymes correctly. Anyone has any questions? Hello?
Doctor, when will we
Yes.
get the marks for you?
Maybe in 2 days, 2 or 3 days, because you're too many. I finished half. I finished 1 class, and I still have the other class, but I post the grades for the 2 classes together. Okay, now I want to give you an advice. You all did relatively well in paper 2 and 6, but you did poorly in paper 4, even those who studied, because paper 4, it's easy to lose lots of marks. Again, you lose marks not because you don't know the answer. You lose marks because you give me an incomplete answer. I hope now things are clear. And I hope now you realize that after we answer the exams together, you realize that the exam is easy. But you do mistakes because you need more practice. That's it. And you have lots of time. We finished relatively early.